Good evening and welcome to the Postgrad Shape What's Next in Design Innovation Technology. My name is Associate Professor Ross McLeod. I'm the Program Manager of the Master of Design Innovation Technology at RMIT and the new Graduate Certificate of Design Innovation Technology. In this evening's talk, we'll take you through the structure of the program and show you some examples of student work, and then open up to questions. Before I start the talk, I'd like to welcome you all to RMIT in the traditional Indigenous manner, Wominjeka, and tell you the following acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land on which the university stands. We respectfully recognise elders past, present and future. Next slide. And so this webinar will be recorded and will be sent via email. And as I mentioned, an open question and answer will be held at the end of the webinar, and there'll be a brief survey after the event. Okay, so RMIT Design Innovation Technology. It explores the future of design practice and how this intersects with the technology in a rapidly changing world. Advances in the digital age have already transformed design practice, but we're only at the beginning of a greater revolution in the integrated application of technology and its influence on our daily lives. As innovation in design practice is positioned at the intersection of several disciplines, within the course, you'll have the opportunity to address issues from a wide variety of professions, such as engineering, architecture, landscape architecture, interior design, industrial design, service design, graphic design, animation, interaction, lighting, media, sound design. We offer the postgraduate level courses at Graduate Certificate, which is starting next year, and the MDIT, the Master of Design Innovation Technology. Next slide. So what is design innovation technology and how do we teach it? Graduate Certificate and the Master's program, the activities are structured around the following principles. Number one, we're design focused. So both courses will teach you design thinking and introduce you into ways of being solution seeking and looking for innovative and individual ways of approaching design. It's research driven, and so that means that all of our teachers think of themselves as researchers and have active research projects going. Those projects then feed into the teaching of the masters, and in that research area, it is industry partnered. So we're very much thinking about how do we connect industry through research and through design and start to explore what we call this idea of design research. How do you start to understand the problems of the world and the solutions of the problems of the world through the act of design? To do this, we're internationally connected, and I'll show you some examples in a minute of the various different collaborations that we have internationally. And as it sort of suggested from the earlier slide, we're cross-disciplinary. And so we see that the future of design is not within the silos of different disciplines, but that innovation actually exists when two different types of disciplines talk to each other, and that new things are found, new ways of working, and new solutions are found through that cross-disciplinary approach. So that means we're collaborative. You work in teams on design projects, we work with clients, we work with researchers, we work with industry partners. Next slide. Okay, so the way that we think about the two courses is through these design research streams, and they shape the activities of both the teachers and the students. We've honed it down to 4 research streams. They are sustainable futures, which are holistic system-based approaches to cities, buildings, products and services. Digital design and fabrication, which looks at parametric design, digital fabrication and advanced manufacturing. Interactive technologies, which is about shaping the interface between data, information, people and space. And immersive experience, which are sensory-based orchestrations of virtual, interior and urban environments. And while they're individual streams within the course, we very much, and you'll see in some of the examples, they very much cross over all the time. There's cross-disciplinary within those research streams as well. Okay, next slide. So just quickly, just to give you an idea of the programs, the grad cert is 6-month full-time duration, 1 semester essentially, or 1 year, two semesters, or even longer part-time. It's essentially 1 semester of the masters. It's the first semester of the masters, but it allows you to focus your study in a certain way, and I'll explain that in a little bit. The masters is a 2-year full-time and 4-year part-time. They're both based in Melbourne City campus. We have intakes in February and July. Contact hours, approximately 12 hours contact, that is lectures a week or tutorials a week, and probably twice that again in what we call non-contact hours, the work that you need to do beyond your study. Next slide. Okay, so this starts to give you an idea of how the programs are structured. This is the graduate certificate. It says year 1. It's basically 1 semester's worth. And what you enroll in is a course called Research Studio. Now, Research Studio is an umbrella course in which you'll do a module called Research Methods. But what you'll undertake is one of the design studios that get offered. There's a range of studios that get offered each semester. They're always different, they're always new, they're never repeated because they're project-based and collaboration-based. And you'll come in, you'll enroll in Research Studio, but then you'll choose a design studio in your particular research interest. Alongside the studios, we have the 2 program options. And the program options are seen as the technical skills that you need to help complete the design studios. So the electives or program options, and you see them listed down below, there's a whole series of those which provide you with specific knowledge about the areas of the research streams we're talking about and give you the sort of confidence and background in order to tackle complex design projects in particular streams. So as you see, and we'll talk a little bit more about them when I show you some work, but we have flexible modelling, 3D printing for creatives, designing with data, making things interactive, soundscape studies, ambisonic modelling, and spatial sound composition and diffusion, service design, design process and communication, and design for sustainable systems and innovation. There's actually another one, which I've realised, not on this slide, which is called SHAPE, which we work with the planning and building department, and we look at large-scale urban issues and how they can be realised through design and innovation. Okay, next slide. So that's the grad cert, and as I say, that's like 1 semester of the masters. The masters then goes over 4 semesters. And I guess the difference between the grad cert and the masters, the grad cert gives students the opportunity to focus on one of the research streams and potentially augment and reshape the direction of their career path, whereas the masters gives a much more grounding into design research and into design innovation technology, and ends with a major project, which is a self-driven individual project from each student, and includes the production of a thesis book, a research compendium that goes with that. So the structure basically throughout the first 3 semesters is similar. You do research studio, technology studio, innovation studio, but once again, they are open you up to the range of studios that get offered each semester, and then you're choosing program options that connect with the things that you're interested in and the studios that you're doing. In the 3rd semester, but really in any semester, you can choose program options and university electives. So across the School of Design, across the School of Architecture and Urban Design, but right across the school, the university, there's many postgraduate electives that you can choose as you start to shape your own individual direction and way that you want to take the master's study. All of that then, as we say, then culminates in the major project where you research, develop and design a specific response to a world issue or problem or specific client or all sorts of things. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I'll just take you through now very quickly. This slideshow could have been 100 slides, but I was only allowed to do 12. So I'll very quickly take you through some examples of what we do in MDiT. And so this is the first design research stream, Sustainable Futures. And it looks at holistic system-based approaches to cities, buildings, products and services. So in this example, this is from the Arden 2020 studio, where they're looking at the Arden area of Melbourne and working with the State Planning Authority and Melbourne City Council, and literally redesigning the systems of how a city works so that they can be sustainable. The idea of redistributed systems. And so that is a large-scale urban approach to sustainable design. Next slide. This then is probably on the other scale. This is on the microscopic scale, if you like. We have a whole stream of research into biodesign, and each year the students partake in the Biodesign Challenge in New York and develop projects, and 30 universities from around the world then meet in New York, have an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art and a seminar at Parsons University, and share the latest research into biodesign. The project that's up here, you can see now, is a project that's just won an award, the City of Melbourne Award, and is they're going to work with the RMIT Activator. And we've just got a call last week from Coles, who have seen it online and actually want to talk to the students about developing. The idea, and I'll very quickly describe it, it's a wine bottle made from the leftover husks of grapes made in the wine production. So it's literally a wine bottle made from wine. And that gives you some idea of what biodesign is, that they're looking at materials and ways of rethinking molecular structure and making new materials and new processes through an understanding of the molecular scale of things. Okay, next slide. And then just quickly, this is an example then of a major project. This major project is called the BUZZ, Sustainable Futures Project. And this is literally a series of hotels for native Australian bees. Native Australian bees are under threat. They're endangered for various reasons. And there's a complex ecosystem that needs to be adhered to. And so this approach to design is, how do you actually help non-human species, and how do you offer them things that they need to survive? And so this is part of a very large and complex research project into that whole area. And then this final solution is this series of parklands, boardwalks, information centres, but essentially bee hotels with very carefully planted native gardens that attract the bees and that sustain them into the future. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that was sustainable. We'll very quickly move into the digital design and fabrication, and this idea of parametric design, digital fabrication, and advanced manufacturing. This is an example from the elective, the program option, 3D printing for creatives, where students start to get very familiar with the modelling techniques needed, and then the production techniques in making things using 3D. And I'll just very quickly, that the large image is the student decided to make a 3D printed pinhole camera that could use this Ilford FP Plus 4 film that is still available to explore an interest in their own research. So that's an example then of 3D printing. We might move to the next slide and I'll talk about flexible modelling. So there's a revolution happening in manufacturing and making, and then there's also a revolution happening in modelling. And so flexible modelling looks at parametric design, and particularly the program called Grasshopper that allows you to make what they call iterative versions of a design. So as you can see in this, the students are showing a whole series of different versions of a design, but that's done as writing a code. Those strange sort of drawings at the top, the students building these code machines. So you can literally change the parameters of a design in order to get different forms and different shapes very quickly. Next slide. That all adds up to then, once we start understanding advanced manufacturing and digital fabrication, we can look at this idea of performance-based design. So then you can start designing for specific phenomena or input. It might be force of gravity, it might be light. In this case, it's sound. And so the students are modeling these sound cones around data that they're collecting and feeding into the software, and then the software is suggesting what the form should do. So this is where this type of design is going, where you're getting in lots of engineering data, lots of other physical data, and then that affects, you can model those effects in real time in a computer program and then come up with optimal solutions. Okay, next slide. All right, very quickly, this is now the interactive technology stream. And so this is looking at a large range of things, from shaping the interface between data, information, people, and space. And this is probably the one that we're all being affected of daily with our mobile devices, constantly updating and changing our relationship with the world. This is designing with data elective, where students look at how you start to express data in really interesting ways, how you find data, from big data to personal data, and all sorts of different data sources, and then how that gets expressed either graphically, through websites, through interfaces, or even through exhibitions. Next slide. The partner elective of designing with data in interactive technologies is called Making Things Interactive, where students use electronics, Arduinos, and coding to produce and do a small exercise in order to understand the relationship between sensors, coding, inputs, outputs, all sorts of things. And so here's just some examples of students working with electronic kits, sound sources, light sources. The small image on the side is a series of actuators. That was actually a prototype for something called a shy wall, that as you move towards it, it actually would move in relationship to your proximity of your body. Next slide. And then this is an example, I guess, then of these interactive technologies coming together in a major project. This is an interesting project that the student wanted to look at, and she said it bluntly, she wanted to look at roadkill, and she wanted to then think of solutions to mitigate the the killing of native animals on our highways. At first, she was looking at solutions that would actually scare the animals off, but then she realized that that's actually changing their habitat, and what needed to change was driver behavior. And so she did a whole series of projects on driver behavior and came up with this device that not only monitors where you are and gives you real-time information, whether you're in a hotspot, it also allows you as the driver to add to the system. So there's that button on your steering wheel, and if you see a large congregation of animals, of kangaroos in this case, or you see a dead kangaroo, you click the button, it takes a photo of that situation, it uploads it to the cloud, the AI system then reconfigures it and updates the whole system. So this idea that you're part of the data, you're part of the solution, not just being given the solution. Okay, next slide. All right, this is, and I'll very quick, this is another one, and I haven't got time to talk about it. It's another major project, similar idea. This is actually about how you redesign the way that the police can respond to safety within the city, and in this case, women's safety in the city after dark, and how that can be decentralized from having to call 911 or 000 and waiting for patrol to come, how all of that can actually be dispersed, localized, and non-centric approach, so that the information and data configurations are reconfigured to act more efficiently in the modern world. Okay, next slide. All right, and now we get into immersive experience. And immersive experience is the centerpiece of immersive experience, is a series of suite of sound electives. So the first sound elective is soundscape studies, and there's an image of Jack with both microphones and headphones on his head at the same time. So he's recording the environment and he's hearing the recording of the environment at the same time. So soundscape studies introduces students into an appreciation of sound and an understanding of the dynamics of sound in our everyday world. Next slide. And then that sort of understanding then is explored in two courses. One's called ambisonic modeling and the other is called SCAD, spatial sound composition and diffusion, in which ideas of soundscapes and the shaping of soundscapes and the production of soundscapes is explored, and those soundscapes are used as immersive experiences for both virtual, interior and urban environments. So it might be a gaming, it might be cinematography, filmic, it may be installation, it may be event, it holds all sorts of approaches to the immersive experience. And then those ideas of immersion are then taken into concepts of light, touch, smell, and then collaborations with museums and galleries and all sorts of different institutions. Next slide. And so this is just very quickly an example then of those things sort of coming together. This is like interactive technologies meeting immersion studio with a service design bent on it as well. This is a project about millennials, multiculturalism and entertainment, and how Melbourne is predominantly a very young population, and in the future it's going to actually, people between 25 and 30 are going to be a very strong force within Melbourne, and their needs and approaches to urban conditions have changed completely. So this is just looking at a series of projects around a festival that can be a sound and light festival that is expressed in the city, but it's also connected through your digital media. So how does your phone, how does your digital technology, an immersive experience, an urban experience start to come together in future scenarios? Interesting enough, this was a project done for RACV, because RACV realised that they are not appealing to a market such as the 25 to 35-year-olds. They're talking to 50-year-olds in Volvos. And so how do they start rethinking what they do? And really the first project is they wanted to know what millennials think. And so the studios unpacked and uncovered a whole series of things for them, but then took that to this immersive experience approach. Okay, next slide. Just very quickly, and I guess we're running out of time. I just quickly flick through the facilities of RMIT. We have design studios, Building 45 Design Studio. Next slide. Building 100 Design Hub teaching spaces that we access. I'll go back one. Go forward one. Sorry. The workshops, Design Hub workshops, lasers, robots, traditional workshop, all sorts of things within that. Next slide. The SILE Sound Lab that has the speaker orchestra in it, mixing desks, an anechoic mixing room, whole bunch of different facilities, microphones, speakers, all sorts of things in which immersive experience can be prototyped and modelled. Next one. And then you have RMIT itself, so the RMIT library, the new academic street, and that whole sort of shopping centre of educational facilities for students to access. Okay, next slide. Is that it? Oh no, very quickly. Okay, so we very much celebrate the students' work, and we share the students' work, and we want to make it public. And as we said, we do lots of collaborations with industry partners and institutional partners, but we celebrate the work at the end of each semester with the end of semester exhibition. It's called Next. This is some examples from last year from our physical exhibition, but if we have a look at the next slide, what we've done this year is we've built an online gallery. And so we've used the platform Kunst Matrix, and we have our own web portal that leads you into a series of 12 different galleries. That's the URL there, next.mdit.space. So you can go and have a look at the work in that gallery. Just be mindful that at the end of this month, that show's coming down, and at the end, in the 27th of November, we're going to have the opening of this semester's virtual exhibition. That leads then into the current situation we're in, and the idea of MDiT going forward, and the graduate certificate and the master's going forward. We're very much working towards now a blended learning environment where you can do the whole course online, if you like, but understand that there is a whole series of facilities at RMIT that you can access that augment your studies. So over the next year, we'll be refining how we do what's called blended learning and flipped teaching, where potentially course material, particularly for the program options, are online. They're already pre-recorded, and that your tutorial time is then much more of that question and answer and interaction with students and lecturers. And then there is the added bonus of having access to the facilities of RMIT. So very quickly, why studying design innovation technology at RMIT? Industry connected. These are some of the projects we've been doing recently. We worked on a noise wall sound park for Transurban in 2018. For 2 years, we developed the Exchange at Knowledge Market, which was an urban living lab for Lend-Lease. and we're currently working on a series of sonic immersion projects for Melbourne Museum. We've done globally recognised projects such as the Touchstones project, which was an interactive artwork for the city of Casey, but was then shown and published in Barcelona. We had students win awards and then go to the Reshape Cognified Matter Forum in Barcelona, where they were designing prosthetic devices for human futures. And we've had a team working on a project called Astrosonics, which is working with the astronomers at Swinburne University. As far as world-leading research, we have some fabulous industry fellows, such as Pirio Harkola, who is doing a whole series of projects on marine sustainability, and she curated the Critical Tide exhibition at the Helsinki Design Museum. That exhibition is coming to Melbourne as part of the Triennale at the end of this year and early next year. As we said, Oliver Kostafis has been working with the Biodesign Challenge in MoMA, New York, and we have a team that's working on a large-scale project on safeness by design, and that's going to be part of the Barcelona Design Week, virtual Design Week in 2020 in November. So I think we're coming to the end. I think I'm getting the, come on, wrap it up look. So graduates may, once you've done the course, and really the courses are different from undergraduate, is that you're coming with ideas of your own. You're coming with a sense of what you want to do with the course and where you want to take it, and how you want to redefine your career pathway, your career trajectory. And so graduates are generally coming from a profession, and that they're coming to then augment that profession to create depth and breadth to what they do, or to say, I'm in this profession, but I really need to develop my understanding of sustainable design, or I'm really interested in interactive technologies and I can see how that is a future for me to explore. And so students, graduates pursue professional pathways in interactive design, service design, experience design, sound design, biodesign, sustainability, product design, exhibition, interior, architecture, engineering. So once again, broad range of things, and we have the expertise in all those areas. Through our staff, we can address all of those things. So very quickly, these are just some of the industry partners we've had in the past. There'll be more as we go forward. We're constantly talking to people. As I said, we're meeting with Coles on Monday next week to talk about packaging made out of wine waste. And so these sorts of collaborations are happening all the time. Our researchers are developing them. Our students are developing these collaborations, and we then give the support to the students to explore those potentials and those future careers that they have in mind.
Yep, Ross, there's some questions from the audience. So question one is, what level of exposure to industry is available as part of the course?
Okay, so every studio that we run, every design studio that we run is a collaboration. And so those collaborations might be, as we said, with Melbourne City Council, Barcelona Council, City of Casey. They may be with Melbourne Museum, NGV, ACME. They may be with architectural firms such as Grimshaw, Decibel Architects, Woods Bagot, Hassels. They may be collaborations with large multinationals, ANZ, Lendlease. They may be with engineering companies like Siemens, or management companies like Deloitte. So there's a whole range of people that we collaborate with in different ways, and students get exposed to a real design project. So a design research project with a client, with an outcome, and hopefully with potential beyond that to be taken somewhere.
Great, thanks for that, Ross. I've got another question from Brad. I did my design degree 5 years ago. How will this program help me refresh and top up my skill set?
Okay, I think that's a good question, and we do have a number of students who are doing exactly that. And some of them are running small practices and literally do the course almost as a job in their practice. And they're seeing day to day things that are coming up that they need to skill up on. And so they're choosing studios and program options in the course that are going to feed into the things that they see their practice turning into. And so particularly I think things like the data-based things, the UX, UI, AR, VR technologies, but then things like biodesign and approaches to manufacturing that are shifting and changing, all of those things. We had a graduate from give a talk a couple of weeks ago, and she basically said the whole industry is just trying to catch up with the rate of technological change. And so what design innovation technology does is positions itself on the cusp of that wave and has the opportunity to constantly be exploring what the technology is doing, and then in that way feeding that back into the profession. That's kind of our job in a way. That's
Great.
our role.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Ross. We've got a couple more. I think we've got a little bit more time to go through these. Can you tell me where some alumni are now working and what sort of roles are they in?
Okay. I wrote that down today. So I've got that on a piece of paper here. I think I have got it on a piece of paper here. Maybe I haven't. So where are students working? So students are working at, as I said, architectural firms, Grimshaw and Woods Bagot, and they're very enlightened architectural firms that understand the cross-disciplinary nature of the practice. We have students who are, a student who came from interior design is now a product designer for Motorola, and that's through her major project work, which was actually on electronic canes for the blind and understanding haptic technologies. And then that was a gateway into her shifting the focus of her career from interior design into a technology-driven product design, and is now working with Motorola. Another student was a computer science she studied. She did a major project on how you teach coding to 5-year-olds through games and using AR technology, which is a fantastic thing. And now she's a CX coder and web developer for a whole range of different companies that are taking their interface with their customers and promoting their products in a whole different way from just maybe what a boring website was 5 years ago. So there are a couple of examples. We have a whole range of students who, as I say, they go back into their profession supercharged. And then there's students right across the world, China, India, South America, doing all sorts of amazing things. Thanks for attending, guys. Thanks for listening, as the slide says. We're happy to field questions. Please come to our exhibition, and you can visit our other website, which is rmitmdit.com, which has a whole range of things. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. We're not on TikTok yet, but just wait, you never know. That's probably a student project for next year. Other than that, I think that's me.